She stayed silent to keep the marriage alive. Silence had always been her shield until it began to feel like a wall closing in. Nana Briggs learned early how to listen without interrupting. It was a skill she sharpened in classrooms, offices, and church halls, a way to survive without drawing attention. In America, listening had helped her adapt. It helped her learn accents, policies, and expectations. It helped her earn promotions and polite smiles. And in her marriage, she believed listening was love. Tony Briggs believed listening was respect, only when it flowed one way. They were young, attractive, and settled into a quiet suburb outside Dallas, the kind with trimmed lawns and neighbors who waved without asking questions. Their home smelled like fresh laundry and brewed coffee most mornings. On social media, they looked solid. Church friends called them that disciplined couple. Family back home called them blessed. Inside the house, agreement was rare. It never started as fights. It started as pauses. Tony would come home from work, losing his tie, and sit at the kitchen island scrolling through his phone. Nana would watch him from the sink, waiting for the right moment to speak. She had learned that timing mattered more than truth. Tony, she would begin carefully, I was thinking about... I've already talked to someone about it, he would say, not looking up. Someone. Always someone. Tony had a mentor. He called him Uncle Deji, though there was no blood relation. Uncle Deji was older, confident, successful in that loud, unquestioned way. He had opinions on everything: money, marriage, faith, masculinity. Tony trusted him deeply. He trusted him before he trusted Nana. Nana also had a mentor. Her name was Mrs. Coleman, a woman she met during a church leadership seminar. Mrs. Coleman spoke gently but firmly about independence, planning, and boundaries. She encouraged Nana to dream beyond survival, to build something of her own. Neither mentor was evil. That was the problem. The trouble wasn't advice, it was allegiance. The first crack appeared over a simple idea: land. Tony had been unusually quiet that week, moving around the house with a purpose Nana couldn't read. On Friday night, he finally spoke. I've decided not to buy land in Nigeria, he said. Nana paused mid-step. Not to buy land ever? She asked. Not now, he corrected. I spoke to Uncle Deji. He said it's not wise. We're still young. We live here. Who will manage it? Nana felt something sink. Tony, we talked about this last month. We agreed to start small. Just land. Tony frowned. We didn't agree. You suggested. The words landed harder than he intended, but he didn't take them back. Nana nodded slowly. Inside, questions piled up. When did my voice become a suggestion? When did agreement become permission? She didn't argue. She finished dinner quietly. Later that night, she called Mrs. Coleman. Mrs. Coleman listened. Then she said, Nana, marriage is partnership. If you don't advocate for your future, no one will. Persuade him. Be wise, but don't disappear. The word disappear stayed with Nana. The next evening, Nana tried again. She chose her words carefully, like stepping through glass. Understand your concerns, she said, but buy land doesn't mean building immediately. It's an investment for us, for our child. Tony stiffened. Did you talk to someone about this? The question wasn't curiosity. It was accusation. Yes, she admitted. I spoke to Mrs. Coleman. Tony stood up. So, now we're taking our home issues outside? Nana felt heat rise in her chest. You do the same, Tony said. That's different, Tony said quickly. He's a man. He understands responsibility. The sentence hung between them, sharp and unresolved. That night, they slept on opposite sides of the bed. inches apart, worlds away. Disagreements multiplied quietly after that. Nana wanted to enroll in a certification program to advance her career. Tony said it was unnecessary. Uncle Deji believed a woman's ambition should never threaten a man's authority. Tony wanted to send more money home to extended family. Nana asked to review the budget first. Mrs. Coleman had taught her the importance of shared planning. Tony had control. Every decision became a test. Every test produced a winner and a loser. They stopped praying together without ever deciding to stop. The biggest fracture came after the birth of their daughter, Zara. Motherhood changed Nana in ways she didn't expect. She loved her daughter deeply, but she also felt a quiet fear of being swallowed by expectations she didn't help create. Sleepless nights blurred into anxious days. She wanted stability. She wanted options. When Nana told Tony she didn't want another child anytime soon, Tony stared at her like she had spoken a foreign language. Zara needs a sibling, he said, a brother. A child needs present parents, Nana replied. I need time. Tony didn't hear time. He heard refusal. Uncle Deji's voice echoed in his head. An African man must have sons. Legacy matters. Nana spoke to Mrs. Coleman. Family planning wasn't rebellion, Mrs. Coleman said. It was responsibility. The decision was made quietly. Too quietly. When Tony found out, it wasn't through Nana. It was through a medical bill. The argument that followed wasn't loud. It was worse. You made this decision without me, Tony said, his voice controlled but shaking. Nana's eyes filled. You choose yours every day. The truth didn't fix anything. It widened the distance. They began living carefully around each other, like strangers sharing a lease. Conversations stayed shallow. Laughter disappeared. Even Zara seemed to sense the tension, clinging tighter, crying longer. At church, they smiled. At home, they kept score. Tony started staying late at work. Nana filled her time with study and silence. Neither wanted to be the first to bend. Both believed they were right. Neither noticed how lonely the house had become. One evening, Nana stood alone in the living room, holding Zara's tiny shoes. She wondered when love had turned into strategy, when mentors had become louder than vows. She wanted to speak. She wanted to be
Love
heard.
wasn't the
But
problem.
silence had become
Control
habit.
was.
And habits are hard
The
to
shift
break.
didn't happen overnight.
Somewhere
It
between
crept in
pride and
quietly,
fear, their
disguised
marriage
as
waited,
responsibility,
unheard.
masked as concern, framed as what's best for us. By the time Nana recognized it, the lines were already drawn, and both of them were standing on opposite sides, arms crossed, hearts guarded. Tony began to see leadership as dominance. Nana began to see peace as self-erasure. Neither of them said those words out loud, but their actions spoke fluently. Every morning followed the same script. Nana would wake up first, preparing breakfast while Zara babbled in her high chair. Tony would walk in, already dressed, already mentally elsewhere. They exchanged polite words, safe words, nothing that could ignite another argument. But tension has a way of leaking through silence. One Saturday morning, Nana received an email that made her hands shake. She read it twice to be sure it was real. Then she sat down slowly, her heart pounding. She had been accepted into a competitive professional program, one that could change everything. Better pay, flexibility, long-term security. It was exactly what she had been working towards. She waited until Tony finished his breakfast before speaking. I got into the program, she said, unable to hide the excitement in her voice. It starts in 3 months. Tony looked up. What program? The one I told you about, the certification. Tony leaned back. I thought we already discussed that. We discussed concerns, not a decision, Nana replied. Tony exhaled sharply. Did Mrs. Coleman encourage this too? The question landed like an insult. Yes, Nana said, but this is about me, about us. Tony stood. You are always chasing something else. It's first career, then it's land, then it's independence. When do we prioritize family? Nana felt something break inside her. I am prioritizing family. I'm trying to build a future. Tony said, you are building yours. That sentence changed everything. From that day, conversations turned into negotiations. Compromise disappeared. Every decision felt like a power struggle. Tony began making choices without discussion. He adjusted our finances. He committed funds to projects Nana didn't know about afterwards. When she asked questions, he accused her of mistrust. Nana responded by withdrawing. She stopped explaining herself. She stopped asking permission. She stopped expecting understanding. They both felt justified. At night, Nana lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying arguments in her head. She wondered how two people who prayed together had become opponents. She wondered when mentors had replaced mutual wisdom. Tony, meanwhile, spoke more often with Uncle Deji. Their calls grew longer, more frequent. Uncle Deji's words filled his confidence. A man must lead decisively, Uncle Deji said once. Too much discussion weakens authority. Tony repeated that sentence like a mantra. But leadership without listening left him alone. The tension reached a boiling point during a family gathering, one of the few times they hosted friends and church members. Nana moved through the house gracefully, serving food, smiling, playing the role expected of her. Tony watched her with a mix of pride and resentment. When a guest casually asked Nana about her plans, she answered honestly. I'm starting a professional program soon. I'm excited. The room grew quiet for a half second, long enough. Tony forced a smile. We'll see how that goes. Nana felt exposed, undermined. Later that night, after the guests left, Nana confronted him. You embarrassed me. I corrected you, Tony replied. You speak like decisions are final before we agree. When have we ever agreed? Nana asked. Tony's silence was answer enough. The argument escalated quickly. Old wounds reopened, words sharpened, accusations flew. You don't respect me, Tony said. You don't see me, Nana shot back. You listen to outsiders more than your husband. You do the same. They stood there facing each other, breathing hard, realizing how far they had drifted. Then Tony said something he couldn't take back. If you keep pushing like this, you'll ruin this marriage. Nana's voice dropped. I didn't know it was that fragile. Tony looked away. That night, Nana packed a small bag, not to leave, but to feel prepared. The act scared her. She had never imagined herself doing that. She called Mrs. Coleman, voice shaking. I feel like I'm disappearing, like I'm shrinking to survive. Mrs. Coleman paused. Marriage should not require self-betrayal, but neither should it be a battlefield. The question is, who are you fighting? Your husband or the fear of losing yourself? Nana didn't have an answer. Tony, alone in the living room, stared at a framed wedding photo. They looked happy, hopeful, untouched by power struggles. He called Uncle Deji. She's becoming stubborn, he said. I don't recognize her. Uncle Deji chuckled. She's testing you. Stand firm. Tony ended the call feeling reassured, but also strangely empty. Days passed with minimal interaction. Zara became the bridge between them, the only neutral ground. They spoke through her, about her, around her. But children absorb silence like sound. One evening, Zara reached for Nana and cried when Tony to hold her. The rejection stung more than Tony expected. For the first time, doubt crept in. What if firmness wasn't strength? What if leadership required agreement? Tony brushed the thought aside. Pride is loud when fear whispers. The breaking point came quietly. Nana submitted her enrollment deposit without telling Tony. It wasn't rebellion, it was survival. When Tony found the confirmation email, his hands trembled, not with anger, but with betrayal. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about who had the final say. He confronted her that night. "You chose your path," he said coldly, "without me." Nana met his eyes, tears steady. "I chose not to disappear." They stood there, exhausted, hearts heavy. Neither noticed that they had stopped fighting for understanding and started fighting to win. Something was about to give, and when it did, it wouldn't be quiet.